Item 2.0, need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda with the addendum.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3.0, need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of February 10th, 2025 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 4.0, consideration of bills and warrants.
Motion to approve the bills and warrants.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 5.0, seeing no one, hearing no one, we'll move on to 6.0, accountability plan report.
Is Mark Pound here? I know tonight's high school parent-teacher conference, and so he'll be by sometime this evening. That was something as a part of our
Okay, so
accountability
we'll,
report.
We'll move
last
on
month.
to item 7.0.
Okay, well, we still have Jeff's part. Do you
Oh,
want for him to do the
Sorry,
walkthrough?
Jeff.
That's all right, Lou.
Jeff thought he was going to get off easy tonight. He thought maybe.
In front of you, I put the instructional framework. Our instructional coaches and admin developed this last year as kind of a guide for our teachers and the pedagogy that we use in our classrooms, the planning we do with teachers, the training we do with new teachers, and how they plan their lessons, and what we expect to see is high-impact teaching strategies take place in the classroom. And this is kind of a guide for that planning that we expect to see when we go into the classrooms. It's a great tool for our teachers, a communication tool. And then a piece of that is we redesigned our walkthrough tool to align with our instructional framework. So when we work with the teachers on this is kind of a measure. We go into a walkthrough is about a 5-minute snapshot, whether it's an instructional coach or an administrator that goes in unannounced to a classroom, whether it's the beginning, middle, end. They'll stay in for 5 minutes and they'll kind of check what they see. And I'll go through this a little bit with you. And then this provides a lot of great data, and the teacher gets a copy of that walkthrough as well, so they can kind of see what we saw in the classroom. And this kind of it does guide a lot of our professional development as we look at, where our strength areas, what we're seeing in the classroom, and then where some areas maybe the teachers need a little help with, and then we provide our professional development. Wednesday mornings, we use a lot of those too, to go over those as well. Once I pick a teacher, you can see there's a lot of information. Once I pick a teacher or class, then the timer will start running. I'm not going to pick ones because I don't want to mess up their data. But building, am I coming in at the beginning, middle, end? Students are engaged in, what am I seeing? What is the objective posted in the classroom? What's the highest level of cognitive level that I see? Are the kids applying? Are they comparing? Are they appraising? And I check that as I see it. What percentage of the students are engaged? And you'll see a lot of these are hyperlinked. So if I click on that, there's a description or a definition of what that is and what we're expecting. So that way the teacher and the instructional coach or administrator can be on the same page. We mark kind of what percentage of the students are engaged, what the teacher is engaged in. Are they whole group, small group, one-on-one, individual? So a lot of these have drop downs, as you can see with that one. So if I select that the teacher is engaged, and then I can select how they're engaged. If they weren't engaged, there's a little section to kind of write what we saw there. That's feedback for them as well. Classroom management, interactions, distractions to the learning environment. Positive reinforcement, something we talk a lot about. Our kids respond well to that. And we want to see a good ratio of 5 to 10 to 1. Not just negative reinforcement all the time. Point out the positives in the classroom. So that's something that we work with the teachers a lot. If we see inappropriate behavior, was it managed effectively? And that's a good communication piece there too. Objectives communicated in a student-friendly language. Is it just posted in the classroom? Does the teacher reference it and communicate what we're learning today? And can the students communicate what they're learning today in there too? So there's lots of different drop downs for that. And again, this is a 5-minute thing, so we're not gonna see everything, but it's a 5-minute snapshot throughout. Once we have these walkthroughs, then we run a lot of reports. And we use this data with the instructional coaches, with the admin, and then the admin use them with the teachers as well. I've been in the buildings on a Wednesday morning where they're looking at this data. A lot of times it's secondary, they do it by department. So they can run a report of the math department, or the 6th grade team, or however, it can be broken down a lot of different ways. When I generate a report, this is for the whole district. When it loads here, it's working. You can see we've done 939 walkthroughs throughout the school year. So so you see anywhere between about 2 to 5 walkthroughs a week from administrators and instructional coaches. What we're seeing, cognitive level, student engagement, and I can hover over, it'll give me more details on what we're seeing there. The teacher engaged, how much whole group are we seeing, small group, how much are we seeing one-on-one? And this varies a lot building to building. You're gonna see a lot of small group at Lincoln. You're not gonna see as much small group at high school. So some of the data, when we look at it building by building, it's gonna look a little different depending on the level. But from this data, then what we do is pull grows and glows. Areas that we think we're really glowing, this is really good data, we're doing a good job here, and then maybe some areas that we can grow at, that we can assign professional development, give feedback, work with teachers sometimes individually based off this. This is not designed to be evaluative, but it is such a great tool for us to continue to improve the instruction that we're seeing in the classroom.
So you have room for reteaching in there someplace?
Yeah.
That's good.
So is this something that you would actually, I won't say focus on a particular teacher that has more, maybe a new teacher who's more?
Yeah. I can run it through, so if I've done walkthroughs in your classroom 15 times, that gives me a good sample size. We can sit down and look at, hey, you're doing this really good, but I want to see you work on this, or do you need some help with that? And then really help them where they may be struggling.
Do teachers still do walkthroughs of other teachers? So that was
Yeah.
something that was good too for new teachers. They were able to go into experienced teachers' classrooms and get a quick snapshot of some good practices, and vice versa. A veteran teacher might learn new things from a first, second-year teacher that has all these tips and tricks.
Yeah, it's kind of done a little differently at each building, but as we rolled out the new walkthrough tool, that was something all the buildings kind of did to teach it, was what I did as a principal was third quarter, the teachers could come on their plan time, and we'd go walk through some classrooms. I'd print this out on a PDF, and then we go out and we talk what you see, and make sure we're seeing the same thing. And then sometimes we do with our administrative team too, is make sure we're seeing and scoring things the same way when we go into a classroom. Sometimes they do it with a video. Some of them will get a lesson off a video, and then as a staff, they kind of score the walkthrough as they're watching the teacher teach the class on video. So a lot of different ways they learn it. It leads to some great conversation with the teachers and the administrators and instructional coaches.
So are the 939, is that all walkthroughs?
Yes, that's all walkthroughs.
So it
939
could be
walkthroughs.
teacher to teacher. It could be veteran.
No, that's not the teacher to teacher.
Okay, so that's not included in that.
That's not included. When we do it, we usually do it on paper, so it's not scored in the system. What's the 939 is administrators and instructional coaches doing walkthroughs and teachers.
Just, okay.
Yeah.
I like the piece where they could see the explanation of
Yes.
Makes
what
a huge
each
difference.
item was.
Because then
Yes,
that way we
that's-
know we're all talking about the
Yeah,
same
certain things
thing.
too, like
We know what we need.
differentiation, people see that differently. So having a detailed definition of what we all kind of agreed on and building
What's
it
being
was.
taught.
Yes,
It has to depend on what's being taught.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah, and building it was pretty extensive, so we had a lot of good conversations with our admin team and instructional coaches on what we want to see, what does that look like, how do we define that when we go through.
Any other comments or questions?
Back in the day, I'm old, teachers had to do lesson plans. Are they still doing that?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
And at some buildings, they The administrator requires them to turn them in if they're new to that department or if they're a new teacher. I know I work with the instructional coaches a lot, and they've got different lesson plan forms. I can kind of show you one. I think I have it here. Yeah. So this is Kendra's at the middle school, and she kind of sets up her lesson plan that she works with her teachers line to the instructional framework. So they're planning for those different aspects in their classroom each day of the week with the lessons they're teaching. That lines right with the instructional framework.
So if I fall in there as the substitute, all I have to do is pull out their lesson plan and go from there.
They should have more detailed lesson plans for substitutes,
need
even
that.
more so than that. They should,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Any other? Okay, thanks, Jeff. Item 7.0, report from superintendent of schools.
All right, so today's March the 10th. We had early dismissal at noon, and staff worked this afternoon on grades because tonight was middle school, high school parent-teacher conferences. So that was the first night of that from 4 until 7:30, so those are happening right now. Those are student-led conferences, so we're working on improving that format and getting better at kids being able to explain, here are my grades, here's why I earned this, here are my goals, here are things that I'm working on, those kinds of things. So tomorrow night is elementary parent-teacher conferences from 4 until 7:30, and then Wednesday is everybody, elementary, middle school, high school, it's everybody from 4 until 7:30. So Matt Peak sent out an email where people elementary folks could then sign up for their conferences, and that way a parent could make sure I don't have all my conferences are on one night, or I do want them all on one night back to back, so it would be convenient for parents. So that's happening, and that means on Friday, March the 14th, that's a comp day for staff because they work 2 evenings, 3.5-hour evenings. So no school on Friday, which just flows right into spring recess, which starts on Monday, so all week next week. Staff and students are out for spring break, and then April the 14th will be the next time we have an additional board meeting, or the next regularly scheduled board meeting. So,
That's it. Okay, very good, thank you. Item 8.0, reports by Board of Education, Tri-County, Leanne Hunter.
We had our audit last time. It was reviewed, they didn't find anything out of order. And also the Tri-County Board negotiation representatives were chosen and will exchange letters by March 31st. Fall in-service dates were chosen for August 4th and 5th, and she explained to us that they've made them earlier and earlier for their employees so they don't interfere with school districts. And I don't know how long they've been doing that, but you all probably know. But I thought that was a good idea. The board approved the renewal of 5 administrators and 1 new coordinator for the upcoming school year, and I believe it's the coordinator for us that they approved. I mean, Amy Lakin. And she's a Parsons High School graduate.
Yes, she is.
Yeah. So that was it.
Any questions? Thank you, Leanne. Item 9.0, action to accept donations to schools.
all right, the donations are listed on page 34 of your board packet. The district office received a donation from Casey's of 20-ounce disposable cups valued at $120. Lincoln Elementary had 3 donations. The Nazarene Church donated student supplies, $925. Faith United Methodist Church donated students hats and gloves, $30. PTO made donations for the shed, $1,500, so a total of $2,455 at Lincoln. At Garfield, there were 3 donations: the Blue and Gold Sausage Company, an unrestricted rebate check, $298.78. Scholastic, an unrestricted book fair check, $12.81. Parsons Grade School PTO, a restricted Christmas mini grant, $32, for a total of $343.59 at Garfield. Guthridge Casey's made an unrestricted donation of $250. There were none at the middle school for January. The high school had 2 donations, an anonymous donation to the boys basketball program of $100, and SoCan Cruisers Car Club, PHS Automotive Program, $4,332.13, for a total of $4,432.13 at the high school. The total district donations for January of 2025, $7,600.72. So I would recommend that you approve those generous donations.
So
I
moved.
need a motion and second to approve those donations. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
These are for January, right?
These are for January.
All right, item 9.1,
The next thing is the formal partnership agreement with JAG Kansas. So, and when Mark was going to be here this evening, he has retired from JAG, so this will be his last year as our JAG coordinator. He said 40 years in education. He was good. Yeah, and so he's made a great donation. So we would still like to have that program, and that is not a position that we would interview or hire for. That's a JAG Kansas position. But this is the formal partnership so that we can continue to have the program. Now, they've done it a little differently. The fee structure this year, moving forward, is to be based on who your teacher is. So this may change a little bit. I mean, it was an increase of $1,841, but the total that they had was $14,341. And this is something that is on the approved list, the State Department, for at-risk funds. So it is an approved at-risk program. And so we appreciate Mark and his years of service to the district through Tri-County and through JAG, and we look forward to, the new person joining us. So I would recommend that you approve that so we can continue to have that program at the high school. But
all right, any questions? Need a motion, a second, to approve continuing JAG.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9.2, action on job descriptions.
So the job descriptions for middle school head coach, middle school assistant coach, high school head coach, high school assistant coach, cheerleading sponsor, and club sponsor were included in your envelope with the board packet on Wednesday. And so they are there. I'm not aware of anyone that had any questions about those. But those were things that I did share with administration and with the athletic director. They looked over them and made a few, modifications to those.
I'd like to see, under the cheerleader, one of the things it says is role model.
Right.
And it doesn't say that for the coaches. Now, I think the boys need a role model as much as the girls, the cheerleaders do, in my opinion. So I think maybe we ought to put that in, include that in there. So we're gonna put it in the cheerleading.
Right.
Let's put it in the coaches.
Sure.
as well.
I think that's a good catch.
And I'll have to go and see.
And we're okay putting the limits, on picking up, and I think of Pashan. And I think of some of the things that are listed here that a coach has to do. And I think of him, and I know he can't kneel, and he's a wonderful coach. I don't know if you all know the coach from Fort Scott. Yeah, and he can't do a lot of these things. But are we okay putting that in there?
Well, I mean,
Because
those were things that KASB recommended. There wasn't anything additional in regard to those kinds of requirements that we changed. What we put was like a 20, they didn't tell you how many pounds. You
Yeah,
could
it does.
add that.
It says 20.
Well, I know it says 20, but KASB didn't give us a weight, and so our coaches, or our admin and AD said 20.
Just asking, don't want to get caught up in something that's not doing right as far as a disability,
Right.
So let's make sure that we might run that by the lawyers that we always call them.
Right, well, and they're the ones that provided the basis for these documents.
They did?
They're all from KASB.
Not Keisha, thank you.
Not Keisha, right, but KASB.
I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that addresses what Olivia's asking.
Well, I don't know that it would,
I think
don't know
under
that any
mental
of-
demands requires the ability to maintain emotional control while under stress and in stressful situations. That's a stretch.
Thank you.
It's a stretch.
I think it's an important skill. So I'm looking on the cheerleading one.
It distinctly-
number 5.
It distinctly says it on the cheerleader.
It does,
Or
okay.
essential
I was
job
just looking
function.
for it.
Which one?
So on the cheerleading sponsor under essential job functions, number 5, I don't see a problem with adding that to the, I'd have to go back and look to see It's not on any of the others.
Yeah, I
is
didn't
that-
see it either. I think they probably all need to have
They
it.
probably
I
all could
agree.
have that. That would not be a problem. Okay, so we can add number 5, be a positive role model for students and support the mission of the school district. We could add that essential job function to each of those other coaching positions.
I think to address Olivia's deal, if an employee has a disability that they believe requires accommodation, they bring that to our attention. So I think we deal with that on an individual
At that time.
basis.
Yeah.
It's my recommendation.
I just don't want to get us
Yeah, it's my recollection.
with everything that's going on federally,
Yeah.
you know, with the disability and all that, so, okay. Let's remember that.
It's federal law now. I don't know how long it'll be a federal law, but that's the law.
That's right.
Exactly. Today. That's what I was thinking about, this at-risk money for JAG. Today, we have at-risk money.
That is correct.
Will we have
Oh, no.
at-risk money
I don't know.
next year?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Good point.
I'll make a motion to approve the job descriptions with the friendly amendment of the role model added to all the rest of them.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item 9.3, discussion and action on possible makeup day due to inclement weather.
All right, so in your view, this last week, were the specifics about the hourly requirements and how many we have. We have been out of school for bad weather January the 10th, February the 12th, February the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th. So in our school calendar, there are days that are designated as makeup days, and you're required by the state to use those days first before you may, say, we're going to take a day of spring break or something like that. And so those days coming up, the 2 days that are left are April the 18th, which is Good Friday, and then there is a day added at the end of the year on May the 23rd. So we have plenty of hours for our K-11 students. Our seniors do not have enough hours because without making up time, because when the calendar was made and then when the high school did their calendar, they based it on last year's and we started a week later. And so that had to be adjusted. And so in order for them to meet their time requirement of the 1,068 hours, it would require us to make up one day at least. And then their last week will be extended, but that's not something that the board has to take action on. So we have 2 days left in the calendar that we would need, that we could use for makeup days, if that's, the board had already voted in February the 10th not to make up January the 10th. And so that leaves 4 days, February the 12th, 18th, 19th, and 20th.
So we have enough hours to cover the 2 days, and then the one actual makeup day would allow the seniors to attend without being in any violations.
That is correct.
And we could use the 18th for that day and not make them go any longer in May.
Yeah, I think the 18th would be a good, valuable day of instruction. When you add something at the end of the year, if we're being honest, that's probably not the same, doesn't have the same value for instructional purposes.
And we used that day in the past.
I think with state assessments too, it gives another makeup day if you need it. It just, that time is precious.
Anyone want to make a motion on that?
I'll move to approve the April 18th as a makeup day.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, item 9.4, action on inclement weather pay for classified staff.
Okay, so this was something that came up as well, because when our classified staff don't work, they don't get paid. And so that means that we've had those 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, where they haven't gotten paid. Now, in January, that when they were told they could use any leave time they had, whether that be sick time, personal time, they were able to use that leave to cover that pay, and then that leaves them 4 days unpaid. Now, the board just voted to make up April the 18th, so they will get paid for that day. That would leave 3 unpaid days. And there's a variety of ways that the board can do it. Elect to pay them because that money was already budgeted. They could pay them for a portion of those days, and they could use time for a portion of those days. I will tell you, it's really hard to find good quality staff that want to work 9.5 months, and we have some really good ones. And the money's already been budgeted to pay those salaries.
Our certified staff are essentially getting paid because they're not having to make them up, so
That is correct.
I'll make a motion to pay the classified staff for those 3 days.
I second that.
All right,
That was a resounding yes,
Yeah.
which is good. That'll make people feel good. They need to.
exactly. Moved
they
and
need-
seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
All right.
They're much appreciated for what they do.
Item 9.5, action approved bid for Parsons High School basketball court refinish.
Okay, and so some of you may remember a few years ago, we refinished the high school basketball court because there had been a portion with the sewer backup that had gotten under there, and we had to redo it. And so we tried a water-based covering, do you remember that? And then it was like gooey and peeling up and just, anyway. So we have tried, so oil-based with a parquet floor, the kind that we have, is what they recommend. And we did have 3 different bidders. 3 bids were turned in, and 2 of the vendors offered a water-based application, even though we asked for oil. And the one that did turn in an oil bid was for state maintenance supply, and that is who the maintenance department would recommend you approve to get the floor done. So that'll happen in July. We're hoping right there during the moratorium, but nobody really likes to work the week of the 4th of July, so I don't know that they'll be able to do the floor at that time or not. But it is a costly.
Do we know if there was a difference between the longevity between the water-based and the oil-based?
The oil-based is supposed to last longer.
Any idea of the timeframe, how much
I
longer?
don't know. I know that when they tried to apply the water-based on our parquet floor, within about 1.5 years, it started gooeying. It was just gooey, and then we had to.
My recollection of that was it was more of an application issue, maybe not necessarily the technology of the coating. So when Eric met with them, this was something Eric Bortz did before he left, it just timing-wise. And so that was what he recommended, that we go back to that. And that was what the guys in the maintenance department thought would be.
Move to approve that bid for state maintenance.
There's a second on that one.
I second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9.6, discussion and action on policy regarding school board members visiting schools.
Okay, so this was something that Lou brought up in, so there is Senate Bill 47. I don't know if you've had a chance to read that, or wanted to read that. And it's talking about giving school board members unlimited access to all buildings and sites and those kinds of things. So this was kind of in response to that, not necessarily in response to who's currently on the board now, but who may, just in the future, so that the procedures and the policy was clearly outlined. So this is currently what we do, very similar to what we do. If you're going to be there, you're invited for a reason. If not, you're supposed to call me and let me know you're coming, and you check in at the office and those kinds of things. So Lou, is there something you wanted to say about that?
There's a group that's, in fact, this was on Facebook this afternoon. A lady went on to try to disparage the administrators and teachers in USD 503 because they were making too much money. And she printed all the salaries with Jeff, I think he's looked this up, and they misspelled words and their information is incorrect. But there's a group called Parents Defending Education, and they're all over the country. They're in Lawrence, they're in Wichita, and they're coming this way. They want to load the school boards with folks that will, well, here's what they say. It's called Parents Defending Education. It's a national grassroots organization working to reclaim our schools from activists imposing harmful agendas. Through network and coalition building, investigative reporting, litigation, and engagement on local, state, and national policies, we are fighting indoctrination in the classroom and promoting the restoration of a healthy, non-political education for our kids. That's part of the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement. So
really-
this puts some safeguards on what board members can do in a policy.
And it would say that board members in their official capacity are encouraged to attend general, we call them PTO, not PTA, PTO meetings.
Everyone's welcome to come.
She's the president. She's there at all of them. So board members in their official capacity are encouraged to attend general PTO meetings as feasible, and when invited, attend school events and activities. Board members should notify the superintendent prior to visiting building during school hours when they are not attending a normal parental activity or patron event. Board members should notify building administration upon arrival, and board members should not give the appearance of evaluating district employees. So that is language that is used in other districts, policy language.
But we don't have that policy now?
We do
No,
not.
just
Okay.
past
It-
practices. This would be a policy.
All right, well, I'd make a motion to approve the policy. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with
Yeah.
it.
Need a second on that? I'll second.
Fair enough.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Item 9.7, how much time,
10 minutes,
executive session?
I'd say,
How much?
maybe 10,
10 minutes?
maybe 15.
Need a full motion and second as stated for item 9.7.
I motion that we go into executive session to discuss non-elected personnel for 10 minutes.
She said 15.
15 minutes.
10 or 15, yeah. Okay.
15 minutes.
Okay.
15
Be
minutes?
safe
Then we
out
can just
there.
do it once, yeah, come out.
Yep.
Okay.
So 6:32 to 6:47. All, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 9.8, executive session to discuss confidential student information. For 5 minutes, we need a motion as written for that, please.
Second.
And moved and seconded to go into executive session to discuss the exception relating to actions adversely or favorably affecting a student under coma at 6:48.
Oh, is that?
We didn't change our clock. We're an hour
I
off.
thought the same thing, let's make that
Getting ready to say, boy, we're
6:49,
flying through this meeting.
and we'll be back at
We haven't even-
6:54.
Okay.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're back in open session. Item 9.9, executive session to discuss employer-employee negotiations. Need a motion to go into executive session to discuss the exception for employee negotiations in Tacoma at 6:55 for 5 minutes, and the board return to open meeting at 7 o'clock in this room. Need a motion?
Make a motion, yeah.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So moved.
From
6
different-
o'clock, we're in open session. Mr.
Cute.
7.
Pound is here. Let's go back to item 6.0A, accountability plan report, JAG report from Mark Pound.
All right.
I would like to apologize. Earlier, I had 7 o'clock in my phone, and that's what I was thinking.
Oh.
I apologize.
I thought you got busy at conferences. That's okay.
First
You
of
were
all,
busy working.
Lori, I don't know if you've got a copy of this, but I'd like to give this to you and to the
Okay.
board. I am retiring at the end of this school
Right.
year. I've been involved in education for almost, 40 years now. It's time to take a break. And I'm looking forward to that. But I'm here to talk about JAG. Thank you. I also understand it's already been approved for next year.
Right.
Really, I greatly appreciate it. For those of you who don't know a whole lot about JAG, we're a nationwide program. We're in 41 or 42 states. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty close. There's 114 programs in Kansas, stringing from, Crawford County in the east to the west border with Sherman County. And they're growing. In fact, my manager, Brooke Brown, informed me today that they're getting ready to start programs in Cherryville and Caney. So JAG is expanding. I can give data and all this stuff. The best thing about JAG for me is the relationships. Because you can have a student for 4 years. They can come back to the program year after year. You get to watch them grow. You know what's going on in their lives. And I think with a lot of students, our students in this community and all over the place have a lot of barriers sometimes. So having that one consistent person in their lives makes a difference. Some kids, we do grade checks every week. Well, their parents don't look at their grades, but when they find out someone else is, and we'll talk to them about it, not scold, I always say, not getting on you. Just want to explain and see what we can do to fix this. It has really helped. I see grades coming up all over the place. With my kids, I had one student last year that came up in the middle school, kind of a CD student, and about this time last year, he wasn't sure he was going to be eligible for track. Well, this year, he's a straight A student. And I really think it's just because someone was checking his grades. The other thing about JAG is not only do they get support for the 4 years of high school, they'll get support for 1 year afterwards. So I do follow up with all my students that have graduated, or even, of course, I haven't had any that didn't graduate, but if they didn't graduate, JAG would still be there to support them, trying to find continuing ed for them, job skills, whatever they needed. But that contact, I always enjoy that. We do it at least once a month, and just making contact with students, make sure they're doing okay. So they get really 5 years out of JAG. The other thing is JAG also fosters some competition, kind of competitive skills, personal growth. We have what we call the CDC, it's career development competitions, and kids can take part in those. We just had regionals February 28th. I had, what did I say, 5 kids, six kids that qualified past preliminary round, but 2 couldn't go, and we ended up with about 3 people that went. I had 9 people participate this year up to the preliminary round, which has kind of been a plus for us this year. I wish we'd gone further, but get more kids involved. The other thing too, it allows for growth in, JAG has what they call the Career Association. It's like its own student council. And it allows students to participate in that, become local, regional, and possibly state officers. The last 2 years, there has been a student from JAG on the regional officer list. One graduated last year, one will graduate here into this year. And that gives them, being at that level, gives them connections with people all over the state of Kansas. One student went to, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Eagle U. It's a leadership development conference that's held once a year in the summer. It's usually at Baker University in Baldwin. I had one student go to that, loved it. So the connections they make outside of here can help them. Let me see. And I strongly believe in the program. I mean, I'm a special education teacher, was that for 30-some years, 36 years total, I think. And the last 4 years at JAG have been really kind of motivating for me. It's been a lot of fun. It has its challenges like anything else, but I think it's a good program, and I believe in the program. And thank you for re-upping it, even though I missed you guys earlier. I apologize.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? I've been rambling.
How many do you have in your program this year?
This time, right about 40. Now, that's kind of, I had like 5 seniors because of schedule changes and reduced schedules that are not in the classroom right now, but they're still part of the program, and then we'll have that monitoring next year. So
I've always wondered, how does a student get into the JAG program?
that's a process we have. I have the administration can recommend kids, and then I meet with Tabitha Spriggs and Miss Mayhew at the high school side. Then I meet with Diana Querin on the other side to get recommendations. And then, I usually try to interview the kids. There are certain criteria and barriers that kids may be facing that are part of that selection process. So,
Very good.
any other questions?
So, thanks,
No,
Mark.
thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mark.
That's your retirement.
Yeah.
And we thank you for your
Yes,
years of
thank
service.
you.
Thank you, Mark.
This is on line 11.
All right, so we'll do 9, so we'll do 9, 10, we'll do this, oh, you're right, 9, 11, yeah, it's wrong, I see that now.
Just letting them do all these. Okay. Let's move on to 9.10, motion to approve negotiation letter to PNEA.
Move to approve the letter?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. All right, let's go on to
9.11.
911, action on personnel. Recommendations for employment.
All right, so 9.11, action on personnel, so the recommendations for employment, Keaton Nolting, Maintenance Director, effective February 21st, 2025. And we have all of these
Okay,
separated
let's
out.
do, oh, you want them separated?
So do
Okay.
we usually do them all separate?
I think you do the recommendations for employment, you group those from the addendum.
Okay.
And group the other
And
two.
then another resignation for retirement, Alberta Smith, high school custodian, effective June the 30th of 2025. We have transfers of employment, Julie McIntosh, middle school. Yeah, okay,
So
see,
we're going to do,
You
so the way we do it is we do the recommendations from employment, both from the addendum and the main agenda. And you vote on recommendations for
so
employment.
that's, so, okay, and so on the addendum to the agenda, it's not 9.10, it should be 9.11A,
Yeah,
or just
that's okay.
9.11.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, let's try this again. We've only done it 7 years, it's okay. How many years have I done? Okay, here we go. So the recommendations for employment, I've gone through Keaton, so we'll have that, and then I'm gonna go over here, and Janae Bailey, high school cheerleading sponsor, effective the 25-26 school year, and Lauren Oberly, the high school assistant junior class sponsor, effective March the 6th of 2025. So I recommend that you approve those folks for employment.
moved.
There we go.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
All right, and so now, resignation for retirement, we only have one of those. Alberta Burt Smith, high school head custodian, effective June the 30th, 2025. So I recommend that you approve that.
Need a motion?
I move that we approve her.
Begrudgingly, second.
Moved and
Yeah.
seconded?
Yes. Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, and so transfers of employment, Julie McIntosh, middle school Guthridge librarian to the high school Garfield librarian for next year, and Melissa Peak, preschool teacher to the middle school Guthridge librarian. My goodness. So I recommend that you approve those transfers.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, and 3 resignations from employment, Alejandro Cornelio, high school, middle school band teacher, effective end of the 24-25 school year. Brett Hetty, high school automotive teacher, effective the end of the 24-25 school year. Janelle Hauk, high school math teacher, effective end of the 24-25 school year. I recommend that you approve those resignations from employment.
Need a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Anything
All
else?
right,
That's it, we are adjourned.
we are adjourned.
Very good.
All right. Gosh, you totally got